A month ago, gas was $2.98. Tonight, it is past $4 and climbing. A Kuwaiti supertanker is burning off Dubai. The president has threatened to obliterate Iran's Kharg Island, the terminal that ships 90% of Iran's oil exports, and he has set an April 6th deadline. The Pentagon says the next days will be decisive. But the shockwave heading for American wallets and global markets may already be unstoppable. Gasoline signs across the country now flash numbers not seen in years. The national average for regular unleaded stands at $4.018 per gallon, up nearly 35% from just a month ago. Diesel has surged even higher, hitting $5.454 per gallon, a level that threatens the backbone of American logistics. Truck drivers, already squeezed by tight margins, now face a fuel bill that erases their profits mile by mile. For farmers, the cost of running a combine or irrigating fields has jumped overnight. Every delivery, every shipment, every acre tilled now carries the weight of global conflict. Analysts point to the price of crude oil as the spark. West Texas Intermediate, the U.S. benchmark, trades between $101 and $106 a barrel. Brent, the global standard, hovers from $112 to $115 a barrel. These are not just numbers on a screen, they set the pace for everything from airline tickets to grocery bills. And the market is jittery. Each headline out of the Gulf, each report of a new attack or threat, sends traders scrambling and futures soaring. The pain at the pump is not just sticker shock. For a family filling up a minivan, the jump from $2.98 to $4.018 per gallon means an extra $20 every week. For a small business with a fleet of vans, it is thousands in unexpected costs. Some independent truckers have already parked their rigs, unable to break even. Across the Midwest, farmers calculate whether planting corn or soybeans is even worth the diesel it takes to run their tractors. Projections from major banks now warn that if the Strait of Hormuz remains threatened, gas could reach $7 per gallon by summer. The ripple spreads far beyond the pump. Airlines consider fuel surcharges, shipping companies debate passing costs to customers, and food prices inch upward as transport gets pricier. Every American household, from the suburbs to the heartland, feels the squeeze. The message is clear. What happens in the Persian Gulf does not stay there. It hits home with every dollar spent at the pump. 12 hours after the Al-Salmi tanker burned off Dubai, the White House delivered an ultimatum that stopped energy markets cold. President Trump posted a warning to Tehran. Unless Iran agreed to halt all attacks and reopen the Strait of Hormuz, the United States would obliterate Kharg Island, destroying every oil terminal, power plant, and desalination facility on the site. The message was blunt. Iran's main export hub, handling nearly 90% of its oil shipments, now sat in the crosshairs. Trump's deadline, April 6th, set a ticking clock for both sides, with the world's fuel supply hanging in the balance. The Pentagon followed with its first public briefing in nearly 2 weeks. Defense Secretary Hegseth, standing beside Joint Chiefs Chairman Kane, told reporters the coming days would be decisive. The language was sharper than at any point in the crisis. Hegseth described the United States posture as maximum readiness, with strike options reviewed hourly. Kane, a veteran of Gulf operations, called Kharg the single most valuable piece of real estate in the global oil market. The implication was clear. Any further escalation would not be limited to warning shots or symbolic raids. Inside the Pentagon, planners studied satellite feeds of Kharg's sprawling export terminals and storage farms, mapping out the potential fallout of a full-scale strike. Analysts warned that even minor damage could cripple Iran's export capacity for months, sending crude prices into uncharted territory. The administration's intent was unmistakable. It was to use the threat of overwhelming force to force Iranian concessions, or risk triggering a supply shock that would ripple from Houston to Shanghai. For oil traders, shippers, and consumers, the signal was unmistakable. The standoff had moved from economic pain to the edge of military confrontation. Every day, without a deal, pushed the world closer to a point of no return. Tankers and cargo ships now crowd the approaches to the Strait of Hormuz, waiting for a signal that may never come. Before the crisis, more than 100 vessels passed through these waters every day, carrying nearly a fifth of the world's oil supply. Today, that flow has slowed to a trickle. Maritime trackers report dozens of ships anchored or idling, their crews on edge as insurance premiums skyrocket and war risk surcharges climb by the hour. The world's busiest energy artery is now a bottleneck, with only a handful of non-aligned ships daring to run the gauntlet. Each day of paralysis costs billions, and the backlog grows with every hour of uncertainty. Shipping companies scramble for alternate routes, but options are limited. The Bab al-Mandeb Strait at the southern end of the Red Sea faces its own threats, with reports of missile launches and drone sightings forcing some vessels to divert around Africa, a detour that adds weeks and millions in extra fuel costs. European refineries and Asian importers brace for delays, while American traders watch the Gulf gridlock send futures markets into fresh turmoil. Amid the chaos, U.S. military assets move into position. The amphibious assault ship USS Tripoli, carrying the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, now patrols within striking distance. On board, more than 2,000 Marines stand ready, supported by F-35B stealth fighters capable of short takeoff and vertical landing. These jets extend the reach of U.S. power deep into the Gulf, able to hit targets on Kharg Island or the Iranian coast with little warning. The Tripoli's air wing, combined with its helicopters and landing craft, gives commanders the ability to launch raids, secure beachheads, or evacuate civilians if the order comes. Every element of this force is built for flexibility, quick to move, hard to pin down. Pentagon planners weigh options ranging from precision strikes to amphibious landings, all while keeping one eye on the fragile supply lines threading through Hormuz. The message to Tehran is unmistakable. The U.S. can enforce or break the chokehold at will. As the world watches the standoff tighten, the tools for escalation are already in place, waiting for the next command. Official numbers now compete for credibility as both sides shape the narrative. U.S. Central Command claims more than 11,000 military targets struck since the first air sorties, with nearly 2/3 of Iran's arms factories destroyed or disabled. CENTCOM spokespersons point to 8,000 combat flights, the destruction of 130 Iranian naval vessels, and a reduction in Iran's missile stockpile from 2,500 to under 1,000. These figures, if accurate, would represent the largest single degradation of a navy since World War II, and a near-total collapse of Iran's ability to project force beyond its own shores. Iranian officials dispute every number. The health ministry in Tehran reports 1,937 civilian deaths and nearly 25,000 wounded, while security forces acknowledge 4,700 killed, but say the bulk of casualties are among irregular militias and not the core Revolutionary Guard. Iranian media broadcasts images of surviving missile batteries and parades new drone launches, insisting the regime remains unbroken. Yet, foreign analysts note growing signs of strain. Intercepted communications hint at command breakdowns, and opposition groups claim high-level defections from the regular army. Market actors now game out scenarios, each with its own crude oil price band and risk profile. The first, a negotiated stand-down by April 6th, could see Brent crude retreat to $90 to $100 per barrel, bringing gasoline back toward $3.50 per gallon by summer. The second, a limited U.S. strike on Kharg Island's export terminals, would likely push Brent above $140 per barrel, with gasoline spiking past $5 per gallon. The third, a protracted air and naval campaign without a clear outcome, keeps Brent in the $120 to $150 per barrel range, while consumers face months of $6 per gallon and rolling shortages. The fourth, a full closure of the Strait of Hormuz, triggers global panic. Brent races toward $200 per barrel, and Macquarie analysts warn of $7 per gallon gasoline and rationing across the West. All eyes now turn to a handful of watch points: the fate of Kharg Island, the resilience of Iranian missile stocks, and the willingness of either side to risk a wider war. The decision window narrows with every passing hour, as both the battlefield and the global economy hang in the balance. Right now, every cent at the pump is a measure of military leverage. As threats to obliterate Kharg Island collide with the reality of gas at $4 per gallon, the decisive phase is here. American wallets and global stability hang on what happens next. The endgame is not distant. It is unfolding today.